agenda where it's at, bitch.
Guys, welcome to the episode of Into the West Comics. My name is Frank. Sonny is here.
What it do, baby? How we can do? Oh.
The hot dog Paul is here.
Hey.
What it do, baby?
Don's over there. Uncle nephew Shane is here.
What it do, baby?
For the very first time, feels like it's overdue. Please welcome our special guests. You know them from the weekly top 10 hot trending list on YouTube, just about everywhere on YouTube. These guys are, inspiration for kind of what we do here.
Absolutely.
They're, venturing off into becoming collaborators and creators for the first time, working with Ben Temple-Smith. Please welcome Comic Tom 101 himself, Tom Garcia, and Fire Guy Ryan Sargeant. Gentlemen, how are you?
Yo, what's looking, brothers?
Oh, and Comic Butch is here.
He graced us with his presence, and he's very grateful that you had us on. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Boom.
Stealing the show over there.
Meow to you.
Meow meow.
Not today.
He's not down. Guys, tell us a little bit about how this book came together. What was the process of the book taking shape? The book is called Crashdown, July 5th. The FOC for it is June 5th. So everybody's got time. I've already reserved my copy, but you've got some time to get to your LCS and put your name down for it. So guys, tell us about the process.
Take the stage.
It's been a fun grind up until this point. We covered Whatnot Publishing's launch last year at Denver Comic-Con. We flew down, interviewed multiple creators. It was a brand new, exciting time. And Whatnot was like firmly positioned at the heart of the convention with a stage and given a breath of fresh air to the comic book readership and collecting community. And we set up in a hotel room and did our best and did the first podcast with all these creators and got a chance to like preview the comics that were coming out and meet the publisher heads of the company. And, at the end of the podcast, they mentioned, hey, we know that you were interested in doing a comic book. I had already been in talks with Ben Temple-Smith to do something for a while.
Cool.
And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, there's an opportunity for us to like team up with a publisher, a brand new one. And, it turned out it was kind of like, we were interviewing them about what they were doing. But now in retrospect, I came out of it having like, interviewed them as our publishing company. So
Cool.
Since then, we debuted our first couple pages at New York City Comic-Con. I brought this guy in because, it was a lifelong goal of his. And, I thought we can do something fresh, something new together. And there's a lot of creative teams that I like. So I thought maybe we can, start our own creative team here.
That's
and
right.
Since New York, we hit the ground running, coming up with ideas and working with Ben and Michael Calero, our editor, who's head of Whatnot Publishing, Massive Comics. And yeah, we've just been working all year on it, and it's a 3-issue series, and we've been newly granted a one-shot as well. So it's actually going to be 4 different issues.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They must like it because
Yeah.
they want us to do more.
sign.
So
That's a
very
good
excited.
sign for sure.
That's very cool.
That's really cool. So what was some of the inspiration that you guys got from this? I mean, whether it be like TVs, shows, books, writers, kind of going into all of this.
There's a pretty big list. I always like to think of it as like movie and TV influences
For sure.
for me primarily, and then comic books are kind of secondary, at least as far as the horror DNA of Crashdown. But the big one for me is Lost, the TV show, in terms of like structure and narrative focus and mystery and the way it peels back layers as the show goes on.
Okay.
So Lost is definitely a huge influence. There's several Easter eggs that we planted throughout this book too. So
nice.
if you are familiar with Lost, you might pick up on some
Absolutely, for sure.
funny nods. Alien is a big one.
Nice.
The Mist, Stephen King.
Yeah,
great
dude.
book, great movie. The works of H.P. Lovecraft in general is also a big part of it. We love the movie The Ruins. It's also a really good book.
Nice.
Really creepy body horror movie
Mm-hmm.
/ book. That's also in there too.
Okay.
What am I missing?
I think he wrapped it all up, maybe a little Event Horizon. Poquito.
Oh,
That's true.
That movie's crazy.
Yeah.
That movie is crazy.
That movie's off the wall.
Yeah, it's not going to be a very lighthearted comic.
My favorite.
That's right up Sonny's alley. That's exactly what Sonny wants to see.
My favorite.
So tell us a little bit more about like the process for putting this book together and getting to work with someone like Ben Templesmith, who on my radar, the most recent thing that he was working on was he did Batman, Superman, and the Authority with Grant Morrison and Philip Kennedy Johnson, friend of the show.
Oh, man.
So what was it like working with him? What has it been like? And how did you get in contact with him? And just how did that turn into what it turned into? And what are your hopes for the future working with him and others?
Ben has been a good friend. I've been calling him a good friend long before this comic book ever started. We teamed up to start doing variant covers, and I've been a big fan of Ben Templesmith since I was like a teenager. He lived up here in Washington for a number of years, him and his wife Ashley. So going to Emerald City Comic Con every year, doing all 4 days, doing the hunt, and comic grind. He was always a very approachable creator, and given that he was like always a celebrity to me because I'm a big fan of 30 Days a Night and Fell and Criminal Macabre and Wormwood, these types of books, but also being able to go and see him anytime I wanted to, and him being so welcoming, it was just like it's like a creator I felt like I knew because I did, he recognized me, he knew who I was, and then like the channel started, and we started doing stuff together a little bit more and more. We started making variant covers, so that was like one of the first big things that we did. Is like, I can actually make my own variant. Ben, would you do it for me? So we got him on The Boys, and then it took off from there. We've done so many covers together, and that started a friendship. And just like go to his place, hang out, and chill in his studio and go through his artwork and drink whiskey with him or scotch. He's a scotch guy.
I was going to say, I love Scotch.
He loves scotch. And then doing like conventions with him and streams with him on Whatnot and what have you. So he had actually mentioned, he's like, yo, if you ever thought about like doing a book? And I told him like, oh, dude, it'd be like a dream of mine to do it. He's like, yo, well, you should write one. I'll draw it. And he said it
that's
like,
dope.
I didn't know if he was being serious,
Right.
but
Or it was the scotch talking.
kind of became like an inside joke a little bit. Like, he just kind of gave me crap for not starting it. So do whenever you get to your book that you're going to do. So I mentioned it to a handful of people like, yo, Ben's down to do it. And, then it's just the grind of like, you got to pay for it and you got to go
Actually
through
get
and
it
make it.
happening. Yeah.
I've never written anything before. So anytime I start a process like something new, I take it very seriously. I kind of get obsessed with it. And I go down the rabbit hole of like, research and interviewing people and getting their input on how to do it better and to kind of perfect the craft. So when this whole thing landed with Whatnot in Denver, we had already discussed ideas and a lot of the process up until that point was learning what he would like to do and the best route to go. He had provided me a bunch of scripts from some very popular comic books, and just like how he's worked with other creators and, hey, this is how this creator worked with me on this book. This is how we made this. This is how Steve Niles did it. But then this is how, Warren Ellis did it. And they were all different. And then he told me how he liked to do it and learning his process. And then also his scripting process for his own independent books, because he's done all this stuff himself as much as working with other creators, from lettering to penciling to drawing to writing, So by the time we got to Denver, it was already kind of in the works, and I was practicing and making scripts myself. And I had a bunch of ideas. I had a couple first takes, and then I went to this guy afterwards and was like, "Yo, dude, here's some of my ideas, and also, you want to just do this with me? Because it's so much more fun doing it with someone, and I got my best friend doing it, so."
That's awesome.
All right. Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of some of his early ideas. I'll put it that way.
Well, it's nice to have a friend who's able to tell you something like that. It's easier coming from someone you know and you trust than coming from someone, because I'm sure it felt like your baby in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And having someone you don't know, or maybe just some random editor be like, "Yeah, I don't like this, get it out of here," or something like that. It's much easier to take that kind of constructive criticism from someone you know and you love and you have a wonderful relationship
One of
with.
your boys.
This is a 3-issue limited series, is it not?
Well,
And then the one
and then
shot.
the one shot.
Oh, it's a one shot. Is there anything you'd like to expand on with it in the future? Is there any kind of do you want to expand on it or try to do anything else concerning it with it, or what's up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned while writing this. We knew all along that it was going to be a 3-issue thing. And then as the scripting process kept going, we were like, how long is 3 issues? That's not enough. We need more room for this.
tell. Yeah, for sure.
And so then we started thinking about like, okay, well, I guess we can maybe tell this portion of the story. If we do well, this could be some sort of side story, sequel / prequel, 0-issue type thing. And then this over here, that's too cool to just leave on the cutting room floor or just skip right past. So yes. Short answer is yes. There's multiple different areas we could see this going beyond the first 3 issues, and then I think the one shot is just the first step.
Yeah, like as far as when we assembled the first arc, we had like a huge list of ideas of like where we wanted to go with it, with some ideas of, an overall narrative, but it's just how we get there, and like how much of the time on the ship do we show, on the planet that's dying do we show, on the new planet that we're going to go to, what kind of flashbacks are we doing, what kind of character development can you do? Because with horror, it's a little tricky because you gotta have a whole lot of chaos and a whole lot of bad stuff happen, but it's only as impactful as the investment of the reader, as far as like that balance of, is there enough character development so that when this person does have an untimely demise, that it actually is impactful and scary and like kind of, you leave the comic with it a little bit. And that was kind of the goal from the beginning.
Hereditary.
Yeah.
That's another movie.
Yeah,
A gigantic influence in terms of like spending all this time with these people and like getting to know them and really feeling their pain and their family struggle, and then getting into the horrific stuff that happens in the back half of that movie.
But there was like a point where we had so many different ideas, and we started and we kept going, and then pages in, we're like, well, you know what? This idea that we thought could be another comic book, because that's what ends up happening. You're like, oh, that's actually really cool, but it may not be Crashdown. That could be something else. And then we just kind of table it. We would end up going back and sourcing stuff from multiple, paths that we could have taken on a fresh IP and then incorporated it into Crashdown. And then, we mixed it all together and now it comes out in just a couple months.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. That's all super exciting. And I know from some of my time in school and stuff, you write these scripts, but the script is the tip of the iceberg. There's always so much more underneath it, where you have entire character outlines and almost like world building for the place you're at. And just so much more goes into what you actually finally see in the final product. And so for you guys to be able to have the opportunity to tell the tip of the iceberg, but then have all this stuff underneath that, if this goes well, which I'm sure it will, and we all hope it will, we'll all be reading, just to have all those other stories that you can mine from. Because you're right, when you're putting something together, you have all these other ideas, and just to have the outlet that you guys have is inspirational and really cool to see.
For sure. 100%.
That's really nice to say, Paul. And it's it was definitely like one of the funner parts of going through this, is seeing just how much, how creative our team actually was. I think I underestimated it, and I definitely underestimated myself, it's like you're using a different part of your brain when you're thinking of like making a comic. It's different reading comics to get, after you've written one. Wouldn't you say the same?
Oh yeah, no, now that I've had experience writing a few scripts myself at this point, it's like I'm paying way more attention to like word balloon placement and pacing on the issue and counting pages myself and seeing how many pages these guys are getting their stuff done in, and what sort of cliffhangers are you doing, and what is the final image on a page? What is the very first line of dialogue in this issue? there's a whole bunch of things you got to factor in and put into the stew, if you will.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I didn't even think about it like that. Like, you know, when you're reading something, you're getting invested into the story, but having to create something, like you said, what's the first image or the first couple words? I feel like that would probably be the most tedious thing I would go back and forth over is just trying to make whatever the little part perfect, you know?
Oh, it's definitely like that for sure. You know, there's this part of the process of like knowing where you're going to go, but then not realizing the amount of work it's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hit the table and be like, all right, let's just crank out these, like this scene. Because we know the scene, we have it, we have a rough draft built. We know what they're going to say. We know what we need to accomplish. And then you get stuck on one panel, you know, like, wait, how are they going to talk to each other if they're standing in this way? If this person's on this side of the room, isn't there a rock over there? And then we're like breaking out a whiteboard and we're like, we're acting, we're taking on the characters now. And I'm like, well, he wouldn't say it like this. Wouldn't it be like in this inflection? And then is there a better word we can say here? So, and the next thing you know, you get one panel forward rather than 3 pages, and it took hours.
We stopped using that whiteboard. Where did that whiteboard go? We definitely paused writing in issue 1, went out to the store and bought a big whiteboard and a bunch of markers and came back and like plotted stuff out.
Because it looks like doctor's handwriting, everything that I do. I'm like, oh, I have this vision in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what I'm thinking it'll look like. And I start doing it.
Here's a map.
And I'm like, oh, I understand now why I chose writing.
Was the process smooth, or was there arguments to be had? You know,
That's
here and there.
Between us, there's been like a shocking lack of argument.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
No, I mean, if anything, it's more of just like getting our ideas out, and it may be a little uncomfortable at times because we're both itching to get something done. And when your head's in the game like that, it's like, I don't know, it feels like an important game, you know, like a sports game or something, and you're just like you're itching to go and do the thing, and the anxiety starts creeping in, and then you're like, you know, you start like worrying about like what you're doing. Is it even good? You know, and but no, very few times. I can't even remember really any time that we like disagreed. If we disagreed on something, it was more of just like how we communicate an idea, not necessarily what we're gonna do. Right. But no, it's actually kind of the opposite. You know, I was definitely concerned about it because we're both creating something and we're both bringing our own, you know, thoughts into this mix. But when it really came down to it, and I've said this a few times, but it's like an idea will come up. Sometimes it's from me, sometimes it's from him. Sometimes it's like half there, and then he's got half of it, and then we mix it all together, and then you don't even really know how the idea started, but because it's so different than where we began, that it really is a team effort here.
That's great.
So I guess my next question is, from the point you're at now, where FOC is in June, to where you started, about how long was that? Where did you guys, like, what was the very, like, where did this begin, and how long has it taken to get from where it started to where it is now?
When was Denver Fan Expo last year?
I mean, it would have been
July, August?
July, August last year, and then New York was in October. So we had
by New York, we had 4 pages printed in the ash can, ready to go. So sometime between Denver and New York, we sat down, hammered out the idea. We started with those 4 pages, and
we actually started with the 4 pages.
It was pretty easy to figure out what the most intense part of our first issue was. So we put those in the preview ash can, and then after New York, we came back and started cranking out the rest of issue 1, and then we've been going ever since.
I don't think we've ever said that. Yeah, we've definitely started. I kind of forgot. To be honest.
I honestly forgot.
Well, we knew like we had a rough draft of the story,
right?
And we knew that there was going to be this sequence of 4 pages. So we were thinking like, all right, well, we want to have something for New York because we debuted the announcement at New York City Comic Con on a panel with Whatnot Publishing, and at the time Heavy Metal, which is no longer happening. But that's actually what really pushed us to get rolling so quick, was that there was this opportunity, because at the time Heavy Metal was teaming up with Whatnot Publishing. I don't know what's happening with that. They've had a lot of changes as a company, both companies, but mostly Heavy Metal, to the point where we're like, hey, you guys got to go do your thing. We're going to do our thing, and let's just not. I didn't want to worry about what they were doing and how to hit deadlines that are.
We were going to have to put issue 1 out in 3 parts, in 3 separate issues of Heavy Metal, just to get our first issue out, because that's the way Heavy Metal works. Yeah. You do parts of a story per issue, so like it's also just cleaner, I think, on this version to do.
We were going to try though, because we're big fans of Heavy Metal. Like that's a huge opportunity, but that's why we were hitting the ground running so hard at the end of last year. But really the process, it was over the course of the new year, and then literally up until today. Like we actually just reviewed all the prelims for issue 2, because issue 2 is already
nice.
wrapped as far as writing goes, and we're almost done with issue 3. But the process is get the rough draft done, world building, and all the heavy lifting kind of happened prior to issue 1, because you have to know what you're working with.
Yeah.
You have to know where the story's going to go. And that was also one of the big surprises too. Not surprises, but like once you're doing it, you're like, oh wow, issue 1 is probably going to be the hardest one to do. I think that's probably how it's been, because you have to know all your characters. You have to know what's going to happen in issue 3. You have to set up for issue 3.
Yeah.
So you have to have the whole thing ready to go. And then you can actually hit the ground running with issue 1. Issue 2 was a lot easier to write. Issue 3, I think, is the easiest because we already know what's going to happen. For the most part.
I'll hold, reservations on there. I think the climactic portion of issue 3 is going to be a little harder to write once we actually get to it. The outline phase is like, this all happens at the end, and that's the end.
It's like,
Yeah, then we
how
have to
are
get
we
into
gonna-
the
how are we
nitty
gonna get
gritty,
actual
Panel descriptions and page layouts and everything. I think issue 3 is going to be a little more difficult than he's letting it seem.
Well, comparably to like issue 1, though, it's been a breeze, because issue 1 was like, oh geez, we have to know like all the names of everything right now, and we have to know the size of the planet, and we have to know like the timeline stuff. Like some things, it's like, oh, it's in the future, and you can work with that when you're like plotting. But then it gets to the point where it's like, well, what are we going to put on the page? Like, what's the actual thing we tell the reader? Because it's got to make sense. And then there's conversations that it's like, yo, just naming the freaking book was a big part of it. Like, well, Crashdown as a name took us way longer than I'd like to admit. But we needed to have that done before we could even announce anything.
Sure.
And we were actually writing the book clear into the multiple issues before we even had the name figured out.
Oh, wow.
So you guys are switching. You guys are kind of switching roles now. I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff with YouTube as far as books that are trending, the popular books. You guys partnered with Whatnot, which is a great move. I thought that was it John Paul? You did the thing with Ninja Funk. That was like JPG. He was awesome with that. That was a great launch. We saw him in September. The timing for the cons down here was weird. They weren't a full year apart. So we got to see him and then saw him again in April. So it was like it was kind of weird. Everything was out. The first trade, I think, is solicited. It's solicited the same previews. It's coming out, I think, in July for that first trade for Ninja Funk. Ninja Funk was great. But I wanted to ask you guys, now that you're switching gears, you got different hats now. Okay. now you're the talent. Okay. And you guys are walking into the cons, and now you guys are doing like you're the writers. I mean, what's some of those inspirations for you guys as like the comic writers right now that you wanted to kind of, I don't know, model your style after, I guess? I don't know. I know
You're wearing the shirt. You're wearing the shirt.
No, we love that.
I mean, that's the big influence right there for me personally. That's my favorite writer at the moment. So James Tynion the fourth. When it comes to horror comics right now, I don't think there's anybody doing it better.
He's awesome.
Also, you guys mentioned Philip Kennedy Johnson earlier. I'm jealous. I love that guy.
He's great.
Number 2 for me, right behind James Tynion. But
I put Scott Snyder on my list.
Yeah,
Snyder's
the best.
I put him on my list.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
Steve Niles, of course, and a lot of Jimmy T, of course. But yeah, there's a lot of horror comics in general that it's not even as much of the creative team. It's more about the projects that they've done that have been inspirational. It Eats What Feeds It. We've talked about a lot. It's a 3-issue series at Scout that's really great that everyone should check it out. And Unearthed was another one that I think resonated with both of us. The Recount over at Scout Comics as well is like a political thriller, but it takes place over the course of like a day over 3 issues. Similar to our comic, we kind of we really like that idea, and we kind of were inspired by that. So this is Crashdown's going to take place in like a couple days. It's a moment in time that we're going to witness that these individuals experience.
That's crazy.
So I mean, are we getting a big cliffhanger? Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things. He said Lost. I mean, Lost is it's all about setting stuff up, right? And shocking you. But with horror, for me, like I'm as much of a comic fan, I am a horror fan, and I have a love for horror movies as well. That's what I do in like my downtime. If I'm working,
I left the room the other day. Tom was still in here doing a phone call or something, and I went out into the living room to go hang out with Butch and wait for him to finish up his phone call. And on the TV, there's this horrifying movie where you watch somebody gets stabbed in the chest like 9 times, and it was on mute, by the way, and I don't know how to work his TV, so I'm just sitting there
You're just
watching
like,
this.
what is happening?
And I have no idea what's happening. And I don't even know were you sleeping with that on, or were you just watching something?
I like putting horror movies on in the background.
In the middle of the day, it's a nice sunny day outside, and someone just gets stabbed to death right on the screen in front of me. It's
Well,
just,
dude,
that explains a lot.
Well,
actually.
I was there was a point in between I used to work in banking, growing like in my early 20s to late 20s, and then there was about a 2-year span that I took a job at Amazon, hiring for like audio visual professionals. You know, I had to learn about AV and graphic designers, digital editors, things like that. So I was doing the onboarding for those individuals. I would like go to art institutes and meet like students who are trying to be audio engineers and like create a music career. And I'd go over there and be like, that's really cool. I like your beats. But yo, do you want to work at like a place where you can get insurance? You know, like I used to do that grind, and I work from home doing interviews all day. And I really like horror movies. And for the first time, I'm working at home most of the time. So I would just put a horror movie on and have it play while I'm like doing work. And then, oh shoot, I have an interview. Mute. And there'd be like Friday the 13th going all day. There'd be like, you know, just anything that I like. I like a lot of like first person camera.
Found footage is
one of my favorites. So I just got used to just having like grotesque stuff on the screen as I'm like, so tell me about your work history. Can you walk me through signal flow? You know, and there's like this horrible stuff happening. So, but yeah, it's like carried over.
I tried doing something similar a few years ago where I was like trying to really kickstart my writer brain, where I would like go to sleep and I would put on my tablet, I would just like hit season 1, episode 1 of like Boardwalk Empire or like Oz or The Sopranos and just turn it all the way down and go to sleep with that on, like the smallest possible volume I could. Didn't really do much.
Yeah, he has an accent that creeps in every once in a while.
Hey,
there it is.
I got it.
There it is.
I love it. Well, guys, I've got so much stuff that I want to ask, but I mean, did you guys have?
I mean, I'm jealous. I see that little Ninja Turtle you got back there in that background.
I'm blocking it.
Yeah.
Mr. Kevin Eastman, some original art. That was actually gifted by Russ Bright.
I was actually gifted one at work. I saw him at my job, and he actually drew a Donatello for me. Or was it Mikey? Michelangelo. Was it Donatello?
Was that
I don't know.
a napkin?
It's yours, dog. I don't know.
So I have one. I have one hanging up in my office too. So I wanted to shout you guys out for that. I like that.
Oh yeah, we're big TMNT fans over here. I actually got all the turtles tattooed on my arm and Shredder and stuff.
Nice. I like that.
So eventually, you know, Whatnot's going to come calling. They're going to say, you know, get back in the lab. We want something else. We want the next thing. What would be the first idea if you weren't going to do a horror series? What would be the first thing that you guys would want to jump into?
Well, the one shot, I will say, we can't get into it too much, but we already have a loose script. We're finishing issue 3. We want this to be perfect. We're going to go through everything again, and we have a lot of work to do there. But the one shot, now that we know that it's for sure been granted, it's going to be different. It's going to be part of the same world, but it's definitely going to be different, and it's going to offer us an ability to write a unique horror story. But I'll leave it at that. As far as like a completely different IP, we have been since the beginning talking about doing a slasher, and then World Tree came out.
They said no horror.
Well, they said no horror.
If you weren't going to do it.
Oh yeah,
I'm
dude.
okay with slasher.
In my mind.
I actually think, like, after going through this, and I'm not 100%, but I think I'm a horror writer, and I don't think I have any interest in writing anything else. I may be limiting myself right now, and I also may say something different one day. But for now, it's hard for me to get out of a horror brain, because this is what I've wanted to do forever, and it's like, everything I think of, it literally starts with just the worst thing.
That's pretty funny.
All my ideas start with like, I tell somebody an idea and they're like, ugh. Okay, that could be good. That could be good.
That was the reaction I wanted.
Or it's really bad. Well, not like it's bad, but it's like, oh, that sounds really gross, or that sounds very scary, or depressing, or sad. But no, you know, I definitely would like to write a superhero tale, but with a horror twist. That'd be really cool.
I think that would be great.
Like some
The only
bright
other
burn.
thing I'm even remotely qualified to even consider creating is some sort of gangster thing. Organized crime or otherwise.
Put his
Ryan
accent
loves
to work.
mobsters. Yeah,
I do. I'm sorry.
I'm surprised like there's not a Tony Soprano character that they find on this planet that we get to. That there's no human being.
There's like a little hidden organization of like some the Goodfellas or something in space.
Yeah, it's like a
Holy
big old
walnuts.
it's like a gambling hall.
You
there's
throw
like-
that in there, dude.
Yeah.
Casinos on the planet.
This will show up eventually.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll show up eventually.
That's all
So,
you do.
so for the guys that don't, or whoever's not aware of it exactly, can you give us bullet points about what the series is about for those of us that don't know what the series is about?
All right, Ryan, I did it last time.
You did it last time. Yeah, Crashdown is a story. Sci-fi. It's a sci-fi horror story.
It's a love story.
It's a love story, but not
Sci-fi
at
horror
all.
love.
It's a sci-fi horror
Not at
story
all.
that takes place in the
Sounds
future on planet Earth after something has gone wrong with the sun and it turns red, like way too soon, which is going to happen at some point in the future, but probably after humans are dead.
True.
We didn't want to like research a whole bunch of science stuff. So we just said, for
It's
comic
happening
reasons-
now.
For comic
Right.
reasons,
Too
it's
early.
happening way too soon.
Oops.
But at this point, we have developed interstellar travel and we have developed cryo sleep technology. So using those two things, we have located planets that can sustain human life. So our journey, our story follows the journey of one of these ships going off to this planet full of frozen people. And when they get there, they wake up and go down to the planet and try and
Roger that.
start a new world. But it doesn't go well.
Or does it?
Oh, it is. There's some love in
How do you
there.
define well? You know?
I know, right?
Will there be cats in this new world?
There's got to be one. There's got to be at least one.
You know what's fun is that Ben doesn't really like drawing cats, is what he told me.
Oh,
Because one of my
interesting.
ideas had really big cats in it.
Yeah, that's one of those ones I didn't
Giant
That
like.
was one of the ones Ryan didn't like. And as
You're
soon as
like,
I told Ben,
"No."
he goes, I don't like drawing cats. I'm like, oh,
He probably
well.
didn't like it either. He just wanted to be nice
Yeah,
to you.
maybe he's like, he secretly likes drawing cats, but
It's like, just not that time.
I'm going to kill him with some other reason.
Well, you bring up Ben, and my thought when you guys are talking about this, because we've talked to Philip Kennedy Johnson about how difficult it is sometimes to find artists for books. Like he's got to create her own thing going on, and his backed up right now because he can't find the right artist. He's got a few ideas. How nice was it that you had an idea and you had the perfect artist for it off the rip, and then you just had to put it all together? You didn't have to try to find the right guy for your baby. He was already there.
oh, geez, we got lucky.
Well, he was there, and once Tom pulled me on board and said we want to write a horror story with Ben Templesmith as the artist, from there we sort of crafted our idea around Ben as the central pillar, and we know that he likes to draw creepy squids and horror stuff, and that's kind of where our brains already are anyway. So it wasn't too hard to kind of throw it all and make a cosmic gumbo, if you will. But it worked out pretty well, and yeah, I don't know if any other artist could really do this the way that Ben is, and I'm excited for everybody else to get to see the things that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, he has a very fast process, which in comic creating is very useful.
Yeah.
But he's also really good at communicating fresh ideas. He's so easy to talk to. One of the first, and I've also learned so much throughout the process, because there'll be times that we're maybe struggling with the page or just like how we communicate our vision. Maybe we think it's not as loud as it needs to be. Maybe it's like kind of heavy dialogue, and we need the art to kind of offer more of the umph to kind of push it through, so that the big reveal has even more impact. And with Ben, it's like, we can always lean on him. There was a point where we were needing to go back and write goals for each page because, hey, we have it all written out, but now let's go back now and read it like we want to write a damn good story, not just write plot points down.
Right.
And we put at the very top of the page like some goals for it. Hey, we got to make sure to say these characters' names. Don't forget that, because we don't say them later. Or we need to make sure that we highlight this character a little bit more because of something that's going to happen later. Or, this is a great time to communicate an idea so that we don't have to info dump. Let's actually like spread out the important information so that it flows better. But one of the bullet points on the top of the goal pages, and it was a consistent goal that we copy and pasted that never changed throughout it: flex Ben's art.
Nice.
Because when it comes down to it, like, he's going to think of things that we've never thought of. He's made so many independent comic books himself. He has a Patreon where he makes a new comic like every 3 to 4 months just for his patrons. And it's a fresh comic, and he just goes nuts, super quick. And it's very, very good every single time. So there have been times where we'll hit a roadblock and then we'll ask him and he'll have something to say that inspires us. Other times we'll hit a roadblock and he'll go, oh, don't even worry about that because I'm going to want to try a couple different ways. Maybe if instead of it being like this, we do it an aerial shot and from 30 feet away. And it's like, we would never thought of that because we're not artists. And then also we'll be like looking at a page of dialogue, wondering how do we fit this in? And then Ben's like, oh, I got you. I do this for a living. So it's been a big part of the process. And I think it jump-started our introduction to writing.
That's cool.
And I think it's made us way more equipped going forward.
That's really cool.
This is very cool.
I'm going to think of some kind of crazy story and hit up Philip Kennedy Johnson like, hey, man, one of these days,
Right.
you,
That's the dream.
would you be down? I mean,
Could you imagine? That would be dope.
Wild.
These guys got it going on. The sky's only the limit,
Man.
Guys, you got fans down here, man. This is like this is ridiculous. I mean, as soon as I heard this get announced, I was freaking out. I was so happy for you guys. I mean, this is really cool. I mean,
it's super inspirational.
But I want you to think about this for a second, Ryan. I want you to think about this for a second, Tom. You guys are going to be publishing your own comic book. You guys are going to be publishing your own comic book.
That's crazy.
It's like a huge deal.
You know what I mean? Like
It's a huge deal. It is so cool.
Especially for some
Yeah.
nerds.
I'm nervous too. It's a
course.
lot.
It's gonna be
It's
great.
It's
It's like
understandable.
it was the nerves hit in, and then the work started, and it's so much more work than I knew it'd be a lot of work.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's been way more than I thought, and it's also given me a whole. I already respect the hell out of the creators in this industry, but now I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
these guys do this every month. And how many titles is Jimmy T writing right now? Like, holy
I
smokes!
would say
Yeah, there was a
five,
tweet from
six.
Donnie Cates. It was like a year ago, but there was a convention, and he did all this stuff, and then he tweeted out him in the hotel lobby because I think at the time, he couldn't be in his room for whatever reason. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and he was just writing in the lobby of the hotel. And it was like, the grind doesn't stop. This is what
for real.
their lives are like.
Yeah.
It's like you got to hit these deadlines, and if you're going to keep up, you got to do it. So even if he was at a convention, and even if he just did all this promotion and all this work, he was still downstairs in the hotel lobby just freaking typing away. And I think about that as I go through this process, because there are times where we're thinking we don't have a whole lot of time to write, and next thing you know, we're having to like squeeze out an extra hour or two that we just don't feel like doing.
Yeah.
And that work has definitely kept us grounded, at least for me. But every time we get new pages, every time we see the next cover that comes in, or we get the next update, or we hear from Whatnot, like, we really like it. Like, holy smokes, like, this is good. That gives me more excitement. And as we get closer, I'm definitely feeling it.
That's cool.
I've written multiple things in my career, in my life. I don't want to call it a career because nothing's happened with them. They've just ended up sitting on a Google Drive somewhere. And that's how I'm used to my creative stuff going. Writing and then just kind of locking it away somewhere and moving on with my life. And now that we get I remember feeling when we got the first cover art in for Ben, or we got some character preliminaries in, or we're getting rough thumbnail sketches for issue 1, and here's the final art for issue 1. And at every step along the way, it just slaps you in the face. Like, this is happening, get ready.
Yeah,
And
it's real.
yeah, exactly. It's real, and I'm not really ready yet still.
But I do appreciate your guys' support, and it's so cool
Yeah,
to see
100%.
that there's people excited about it, because we make videos in a small room. We've been doing it for 5 years, and we know that there's diehards, and we appreciate our fans so damn much. But when we're in a room by ourselves talking to a camera, and we don't do a lot of live stuff anymore, it's it's always really humbling, exciting when we go to a convention and we get to see people.
Yeah.
It's like there's someone on the other end of this, and it's a nice reminder. But with this comic book process, it's it's kind of got to do it and hope for the best, because we did something that's very creative. Anyone who judges us on this, it's like they're judging our effort in writing and creating something fresh, not necessarily my opinion about a comic book or something. It's just a very different feeling. So to see any excitement at all, it's a very special thing. More special than peeps watching videos that we make and put a lot of effort into sometimes. Oh my gosh, there's someone excited about something we wrote, and they seeing a reaction from someone who maybe read the comic a little early, and they're like, yo, I can't believe what freaking happened. That's
feel good.
crazy. And I'm
People
like,
offering people to read it early, and they're like, I want to wait. I don't want to spoil myself early. I'm glad you have people in your life who are willing to preliminarily read it.
oh, I just make them do it. I'm like, I need you to read
Yeah,
this.
we're
And don't,
checking
and
this
don't
Showing
lie to
several
me.
people, and you're like, I don't want to read it yet. Wait till it's out. I'll read it then. I don't know how to interpret that, but okay, thanks for nothing.
Like, do you know how to read?
Well, that kind of leads me into my final question is that Ryan kind of mentioned it. He's written stuff before. You have stuff, ideas that you've had in a drive that are for your eyes only or for the closest people to you. How are you guys balancing the excitement of your LCS or whatever comic book shop or whatever internet app you have to read comics? Your comic is going to get read by however many people. Your baby is going to go out into the world. How do you balance the excitement of people seeing your story and the nerves around people seeing your story and how they're going to react to it?
Oh, that's an easy one to answer. It's kind of like funneled through needing to make sure that those who support are being taken care of. It's about making sure that the retailers are empowered and that they have appropriate marketing on the titles that they're taking risks on, whether it's stores who are making variants or LCSs who are putting out orders. We just actually last weekend hit up like 6 local comic shops all within our area just to like talk to them, to let them know, hey, if you order this, we're going to be here to support. We'll come in with goodies, giveaways. I'm going to hook them up with variants, that we make and just sell them, make money. Like, maybe we can do a stream there, do a free signing, just gift them things because, we sell comics ourselves. We know how hard this grind is. So to have any store take this on, we're taking it very seriously. One of the things that I got approved, Whatnot really liked the idea, but for every cover that comes out, we're making a video motion graphics, small little video that accompanies the cover.
That's incredible.
Over on my Instagram page and on the Crashdown Instagram page, you'll see like cover A, like videos of motion graphics debuting Crashdown. So like every week there's going to be some type of marketing from our team. Yeah. And that's like I would say probably one of the pitfalls of the comic industry is that it's so hard and so expensive, but so awesome if you're able to do it, and actually quite affordable when you think of other mediums. But it is very tough to do the creative of a comic book, the distribution and publishing of a comic book, and then marketing, which is as important as both of those things, isn't really handled by anybody. Like the publishing companies really busy doing the publishing. You got distribution focused on making sure that the orders go out and the process is handled. And then you got the creative team who's just like us stressing about every word on the page. But then, there's like things like this, doing interviews, of course, and we're very grateful for being here.
We're grateful for you guys.
Having us on. But like beyond that, LCS attention and retailer attention and making sure that we are doing more, that we're doing way more than enough, because if we're not loud about it, who's going to be loud about it? So it's more about empowering those who are going to market the book. And another thing that we did was actually offer those videos to be made on retailer variants that are signing up. So, I don't think I've ever seen a team offer that for retailers who do variants. Like, make a cover, give us the high res, and I'm going to pay an editor hundreds of dollars to like create a video for your store, and we'll put your logo on the store. Yeah. And then also we have our reach on YouTube. So any store that's like supporting our stuff, we're going to shout them out. We're going to make sure they get YouTube attention and Instagram attention. Like we're going to go all out for everybody who supports it and really leverage the reach that we have. Because we're getting a lot of support, but like we got to pass that support on to those who are going to support the actual project, And
we're definitely going to do our best to help that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got some fans over here. We'll be taking care of you guys on our side. That's for sure.
Now,
I would love to come back after you've read it, and you can tell us
I want to come back
how it is.
Period, because I watched your guys' last episode earlier today, and you were going on about the Oppenheimer trailer, and I believe it was Paul that was talking shit about Killers of the Flower Moon and Martin Scorsese, and I'm looking forward to that
movie. It's just too damn long.
You can come and yell at Paul anytime you want.
Please yell at him.
Okay. Why does everyone always want to yell at me?
We encourage it.
I guess it's probably a me thing, right?
Yeah, no, we encourage
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, man.
Like the guy said, you guys are more than welcome anytime on the show. It'd be really awesome. And then even more so after we get to read everything. So we definitely see a comparison.
Yeah, guys, we're really excited for you. Congratulations again. We're excited. It's going to be awesome. We're looking forward to it. I'm going to get you guys out of here on this last question. Okay. Are you ready?
I think so.
Hit me.
How many times this weekend are you going to watch Fast X?
Oh my God.
Is it out already?
It's coming out tonight, bro.
I've still got to watch the last one.
That's the car movie.
That's the car movie, not to be
barely
confused with
about cars.
Beast Wars or whatever the
I was going to say, like,
Transformers.
everyone is less and less about cars and more about
Literally.
spaceships at this point. I don't know, but
Literally.
Is Vin Diesel still part of it?
Yeah,
He is still
Is-
part of
is-
it.
all about
he
family,
ever-
bro.
He can't do
love Vin
anything else except that and Groot.
he caught a car in the last one.
He caught it.
He caught it.
God.
You gotta
Wow.
I
watch it.
finally gave those movies a chance earlier last year, and
Yeah,
I was
watch it.
a little disappointed in myself at how much I didn't hate them.
You wouldn't make
What,
so
you
many
didn't
if
hate them?
they were
Yeah, but they
terrible.
make all kinds of bad movies.
No,
you know?
they're pretty
Bad
bad.
movies get made all the
The fifth
time.
one's
But
good. After that.
Fantastic Four.
Not great.
Fast and Furious. There's a lot of too many F's. Fast and Furious is kind of stupid fun. I had a good time.
Yo, the Meg 2. Do you see the trailer
Yep.
for that?
Oh yeah.
Looks
The
great.
trench.
Dude, are you hyped
Come
about
on.
the Meg? The
Come
Meg
on.
is so good. Have you never
I
seen
can't
that
wait.
movie?
Yes.
Oh, so this
It's
guy,
awesome.
creature horror, dude. Come on.
I knew we would be friends.
Can't wait.
Sharks.
Guys, again, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. Congratulations again. We're very excited for you. The FOC is June 5th. The book drops right after we do fireworks, Sonny. July 5th. The book's going to drop in all your LCSs. Make sure you go out and you pre-order Crashdown.
Do it.
Do it. Go do it. I already ordered mine.
No. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Guys,
There's a
thank
dope,
you.
We got a David Mack cover. It's definitely one of the pricier covers we commissioned, and it's open to
Need the
order.
cover.
You know, we wanted to make some of these some dope covers like available to everyone at cover price. So take a look. We got Ben T on all the covers. As mentioned, David Mack, Johnny Desjardins. We teamed up with Illis Duminati, Javon Jordan, and this is he actually has his first comic book in previews, and it's a Crashdown incentive variant, which is very exciting. He's actually going to be on all 3 issues.
Super cool.
We got some surprises up our sleeves, yo, and I may or may not have just received a battle damage
I was going to
prelim.
say, you sent me something last night that was a little exciting.
Interesting.
Somebody
Pretty
getting
cool.
stabbed.
We got some fun stuff.
No, it wasn't stabbed. Okay. Guys, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thank
Come
you
back
guys.
and hang out anytime y'all want.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of the day, yo.
Bye. That's awesome.
Nah, those guys are cool.
That was awesome.
That
Those
was
guys are rad.
fantastic.
I'm really
So I knew
excited.
it would
I'm
be.
excited to read this. I'm excited.
It's crazy.
Paul, what do you got for the people? We gotta get out of here.
What do I got for the people? First and foremost, follow them on all of their socials. Comic Tom 101 on YouTube, Comic Tom 101 on Instagram and Twitter. Fire Guy Ryan on Instagram. I apologize. I should have asked. I don't know if he's on any other platform. But go give them a like, comment, subscribe, buy their comic, support those guys. They're super nice. They took the time out of their day to come on our show and talk to us goofballs. And also, if the spirit moves you, like, comment, follow, and subscribe all of our things. Into the West Comics on Instagram, _comics on Twitter, Into the West Comics on TikTok. Find us on the audio platforms, Into the West Comics for Spotify, Apple Music, so on and so forth. And follow Sonny's Feet Finder.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You got to put that feed finder in there.
This is lighting a fire under our butts. I think we should write a comic
I
immediately.
think
as
they're
well.
probably much more skilled than I am.
I think they're. I'm going to trust their judgment. We'll see. We'll talk about it.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, man. I'm getting in the line with Philip Kennedy Johnson and be like, in 5 years,
Not 5
Yo,
years.
man.
In 5 years.
I want something done, man. We got to
On
do
and
something
two off.
together.
Is that
That'd
the
be
name
crazy.
of the comic going to be 2 on and 2 off?
Wow. Shane, what do you got for the people?
Once upon a time in Mexico.
Hey,
That's where I
everybody
want my
knows that my birthday wasn't too long ago. The fabulous Frank bought me this fine shirt. It's a David Bowie Star-Lord
Fabulous Frank.
mashup. And it's just a beautiful gift. I love Frank with all my heart and soul. And thank you so much, Frank. That and one more thing. The Queens of Stone Age has a new song out. Rock and roll is my business, and I'm going to tell you right now. It's called Emotion Sickness. So go find it on Spotify, the YouTubes, the interwebs. Queens of the Stone Age, new song Emotion Sickness. Check it out.
Heard.
I didn't know that he was like a music producer, kind of. You know, he's a music promoter. Oh,
What?
God.
He does it like every show.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Sonny.
He's just getting into it. I don't know. I'm really glad to have these guys on, and I'm really stoked to,
That was great.
see. Like I said, man, the inspiration's there. It really kind of shows you that some dudes, normal dudes, we can actually get some things popping. So look
It's
out for
definitely
some-
inspirational.
It's super inspirational. So I'm glad for those guys. Oh God, I'm I'm Spider-Man.
Okay, all right.
I'm thrilled for these guys. I mean, Sonny, I've told you, Tom and all those guys up there. Russ Bright, he mentioned he's the owner of their shop up there. Ryan, these guys are they're the real deal.
Yeah.
And they were part of the inspiration for us doing our YouTube thing.
Yeah, man.
I mean, they're part of the reason why we're doing this.
Literally right now.
So
It's really cool to see good stuff happen to good people, man.
So I'm saying in 5 more years, you're right. We could probably
you just think
write
about a 5-year timeline. I don't know.
Yeah.
5 years from now, we're gonna say, Sonny, what happened to the book? He's like, I don't know. I gave up.
I don't know. I went to Mexico.
Or we're
to
at a
Mexico.
panel at San Diego Comic-Con.
True,
wow.
It's true too.
Guys, thank you so much for taking the time
yeah.
to check us out tonight. Again,
It's
thank
inspirational.
you to
Yeah.
Comic Tom Garcia, and Fire Guy
Thank
Ryan
you.
Sargeant. We appreciate you guys so much.
And the key.
Crashdown, June 5th is the FOC. It drops July 5th. So you got a couple more weeks if you want to get to your LCS and pre-order that. Make sure you go and do that. We will see you next week. Be on the lookout for more videos coming out in the next few days. We've got Run It Back. We're all Star Wars, baby. We're doing Star Wars. It might be Taco Time in America. I don't know. We might go see the Nazi Zizou
Nazi
movie.
Kill, yeah.
Zizou with the cat.
Nazi Kill. Guys, have a great evening. We appreciate you, and talk to you soon.
Bye. I love you all.
I love you. Take care.
Brush your hair.
There it is.